Hi, this is Lisa Futch with lesson 3 for the September Copic Club, and I'm going to teach you a really cool technique called fade to white. And this technique is fantastic for things such as these cherry blossoms, and this set is from Flourishes. Flourishes are one of my favorite stamp companies. I think that they do make the shading and blending and highlighting much easier because they kind of give you an indication on the stamp, and you can tell by these little dots where the highlighting and shading is going to be darkest. The closer the dots, like here, it's going to be heavier and darker in color, and the places here it's going to be lighter. Does that make sense? So let's look at this image. Cherry blossoms. And cherry blossoms, I love anything kind of oriental inspired. I love the cherry blossom. We're going to use some of our past colors. We're going to use RV23, RV21, and RV000. When we're looking at a fade to white, and I'm tempted to, based upon the cherry blossoms that I'm seeing, I may go even a little darker in the middle there. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to look at my Copic color chart here and see what might work. Now I do have this RV13 that's a little darker, or the RV04. I may go ahead and pull that RV04 marker in so that I have a little bit more of a depth of color in that middle area. And that's from a past kit as well. Because cherry blossoms tend to be pretty vibrant. They do tend to be more of a red or a red pink or fuchsia pink. So let's see how this goes. Let's look in the middle and let's start over here. And I'm going to put a really strong pink color in the middle. Blending that in with the little feather stroke, and that's my RV04. I'm going to go in with my RV23 and blend into that. Once again with the feather stroke. And I am really taking into account these lines that they put here with Flourishes stamps. You can see them where the color needs to be laid with my RV21. Now, why is it important to be able to fade to white? Now, you might be asking yourself this question. You might say, why am I even watching this video? Besides me being so bloody entertaining, right? What is important is because cherry blossoms are not pink all the way through. They have white on them. So how am I going to represent white on this flower if I don't color the whole thing? And plus, let's face it, there is no white Copic marker, right? So I'm going to add this color in here, my very lightest color, which is my RV000. And now I'm going to get my colorless blender. Now here's the tip of the day. First of all, make sure your colorless blender is filled and very juicy. If it is not, you will be regretting it. I'm going to start, and this is one time I'm going to use little circles, and I'm going to blend that lightest color into white. I'm going to blend from this lightest color here, the RV000, into the white. And now what I'm getting is I'm getting a pale pink blush color that's being made out of that RV000 fading in to a white that's being reserved by this colorless blender. And you can either do small circles or you can do the feather stroke. I vary depending on how big my area is. And you can tell that these areas on the end are now still white. Now I have a cherry blossom. Okay, let's look at another cherry blossom. Let's look at the one next to it. Let's put in our RV4 in the center. And this is a little different because the petals are pointing more upwards, so we know that the darkest area is not going to be over there. Okay, let's add our RV23. Our RV21. It's again just a tiny kind of feather stroke. Okay, with our RV000. And I like to color into that next color, which means pulling my tip down into the darker colors. I find I don't get so carried away with taking up my white space. Okay, now once again, you can tell it's a very harsh white between this and the pink, but I'm going to go ahead and go in with my colorless blender, and I'm going to fade that RV 000 into white. So that there's more of a gradient color between the RV color and the white color. You know, what I need to do over here is, because there is this little bit of a petal showing, I need to add a little bit more darker. And I didn't choose to do my RV04. I did my RV23 followed by my RV21 because it's an awful little space there, right? So I want to make sure that I'm not putting too many colors there. And my RV000. And once again, because that's a petal that's turned over, there's not going to be as much white. There we go. I'll blend my white in. Now, if I feel like it's still too stark of a contrast, I can go back in with my lighter color. And because I have those lines in there from flourishes to give me an idea where that color goes, I can do that. Go back in. Coloring to me is a process, so you don't finish. It's not like I've colored and I'm finished. It's not like crayons. It's really more like painting. Okay. Fading to white. Where else is fading to white important? Okay, if I am trying to highlight my image, and I'm going to use a BG010 here. If I'm trying to give my image a highlight to make my image pop off the paper, you may have seen people put the line around their image for highlight. And this blue-green, depending on what color papers you're using, may work really well because it really makes the pink pop. But it is a darker color, isn't it? So how am I going to make that not look so dramatic? It's fairly dramatic, isn't it? I'm going to use my colorless blender, and I'm going to fade to white. And this is the time I would use my small circles. What I'm doing is I'm taking that ink. We're reserving the darker ink by the flower. We're taking the inks on the side farthest away from the flower, that BG10, and we're diluting it. And we're fading it from that BG10 all the way down to white. And you have to let that dry for a second, but what it does is it makes almost like a really soft halo around these flowers here. And let me get it more close in. So what it does is it makes the flowers almost more 3D and pop off the page. Now you may decide after you do it, ooh, it's still too dark over here. Just really use the tip of that colorless blender and fade it in. Now, with this set comes a lot of the cherry blossoms.